From the Daily Mail, U.S. Marshals recover 45 missing children and 109 human trafficking survivors in Autumn Hope operation. Ohio Attorney General David Yost announced the successful recovery at a news conference on Monday, where he called Autumn Hope the largest anti-human and trafficking effort in the state's history. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, God, for the federal marshals and the police that help free these children from these monsters. Like up to 5% of people right now are pedophiles. Between 1 and 5%, man. And when I'm saying pedophile in this context, we're talking about children 13 years of age or younger. That would match the diagnostic manual of, or the statistics manual of mental health, whatever's the I can never remember it, man. The diagnostic and statistic manual of mental disorders. Like, we're talking like real pedos. And they're human trafficking. What goes on in these human trafficking networks is relatively easy to explain, actually. So where you have an 18-year-old prostitute, you're highly likely to find a 17-year-old prostitute. Where you're highly likely to find a 17-year-old prostitute, you're highly likely to find a 16-year-old prostitute, and so on down the line into pedophilia. It's just a statistics of how hooker networks work, because people will have friends in their age group, and X percent of them will corrupt Y percent of their friends, right? Just a statistic. It's going to happen. That's just how networks work. There's people, they have similar ages, they associate with each other, they make networks, and the younger people tend to hang out with more young people. And a lot of times, their parents will start sexually abusing them. And eventually, at a certain point in time, the child becomes a risk of their parent going to jail. At which point in time, the child is sold into sex slavery and is used as a sex slave and is sex trafficked. And this is not what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Jeffrey Epstein was like a John. He had a hooker referral network where one girl would refer another girl. Most of them were over the age of 18, but he paid extra money if they were under the age of 18. But the sex traffickers in that network were the victims themselves, because they would refer one woman would refer another woman, and then she would get a finder's fee to refer the next woman. And Ghislaine Maxwell seems to have been the one who was coordinating the sex trafficking. So if anybody's a sex trafficker, it's Ghislaine Maxwell. Her father is alleged to have been part of the Bohemian Grove and to have engaged in a blackmail ring from his newspaper. It's kind of like that National Enquirer newspaper where they do catch and kill stories. They'll pay, like if there's a story bad about somebody, they get dirt on you, then they'll come and they'll say, hey, look, pay me money, I'll bury this story. And that's what he did, and they had a hooker network, and that's where Ghislaine Maxwell learned how to be a hooker network. So that's what Alex Jones is saying happened, which I believe Alex Jones on that one. That Bohemian Grove stuff's real. Definitely, nobody's debating who's looked into the history of Bohemian Grove. Nobody's really debating this club does not exist, because there's pictures of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan there at the club. Definitely exist. Definitely have an owl god that they sacrifice. They do mock human sacrifice to an owl god there at Bohemian Grove. So they're alleged to be the QAnon source. And the creepy thing is, okay, you got to look at how many kids are getting sex trafficked. It says from ncjrs.gov, Human Trafficking National Crime Justice Reference Service. Each year, an estimated 14,500 to 17,500 foreign nationals are trafficked into the United States. The number of U.S. citizens trafficked within, this is human trafficking, so that's human trafficking. Here's from unice.org. Looking for says over here, National Human Trafficking Hotline statistics show a 25% jump in human trafficking cases from 2017 to 2018. This includes sex and labor trafficking. Of the more than 23,500 runaways reported to the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children in 2018, 1 in 17 were likely victims of 1 in 7 were likely victims of child sex trafficking. So let's do the math. You got to understand, oftentimes the child gets killed whenever they become a liability. So when they say that the Bohemian Grove is doing mock human sacrifices and then they're connected to this QAnon thing, then you're going to have to start looking at that like, wow, are they getting rid of the children that they abused? I mean, I don't know. We're just kind of speculating. I only believe evidence-based stuff. But this is, 3,000. But this website's saying there's about 3,357 kids trafficked in the U.S. each year. That's a lot. That's a lot. And that's new kids each year. So, the past decade has been 33,000 kids. So it's not a small number of kids. A lot of times these people who are sex trafficking, they'll engage in some dark web stuff where they're sharing abuse images. And then they got these networks. And then there's also the networks that have above-age hookers and different communities of people. One's more underground, dark web, obviously. The other one can operate a little bit more on the clear web, although they've been pushed off that most of the time. But there are oftentimes there will be intersections between the two, and then you'll have cartels smuggling massive amounts of drugs. Got human trafficking networks. Got thousands of kids missing. These guys might have like 100 kids in the network, pimping them out, making thousands of dollars a day off of destroying these little kids' lives. It's happening right now. It is. And then they want to demonize these QAnon people by saying they're crazy because they think that there's satanic cult of people that are doing human sacrifice, and they're like, okay, well, that sounds insane, right? Like, okay, well, what about Bohemian Grove? They got an owl god. Bohemian Grove. We can see here a picture of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan at Bohemian Grove. It's up on Wikipedia. I don't know who that guy is, but these are like the most rich and powerful people in the world. And where's this owl god? They got an owl god that they sacrifice, do mock human sacrifice. And it's like you're crazy, right? Nah, man, all this stuff's legit. This is their owl god. They actually do this thing. It's some crazy, weird thing that rich people do. Got some weird cult shit going on, but they're doing mock human sacrifice. Who knows? They might actually have done the human sacrifice before the event. You don't know. But these people have been in the power group of the considered Illuminati that they're in the major power circles. You got evidence of that right here. Don't even got to look very far. We already saw it. Boom. Ronald Reagan. Look, Richard Nixon, 2 U.S. presidents at Bohemian Grove doing mock human sacrifice of children. You're like, okay, all right, well, this sounds exactly like QAnon. It's like, all right, are you crazy? I know. I don't know if this exists. I'm just giving you the facts. I don't believe anything until I have evidence. But I'm not going to fail to make assumptions in situations where obviously there's connections. Like there's obviously a connection between Ghislaine Maxwell's father catch and kill blackmail through the newspaper that they owned, just like the National Enquirer buries stories with catch and kill, and they used hooker networks to get blackmail. Who else uses hooker networks? KGB. Russians. Whatever the KGB turned into. And who else is doing it? Everybody with a sex trafficking network. Going to have some victims or some Johns. They're going to blackmail. They got to keep their way going. They'll get politicians to have sex with some underage prostitute doing drugs, videotape them, and then use it for blackmail. That's how they work. And so you're foolish to think that these people wouldn't have a very insanely corrupt network. If they have a large sex trafficking network, you would be fool to think that they wouldn't pawn off some politicians so that they could get an influence network so they could funnel in narcotics and human trafficking victims. Cartels have the human trafficking networks. That's how they get rid of their drugs. So it's not too much of a stretch to believe that they wouldn't have a network of people they met on the dark web that was involved in some super shady stuff with some child sex abuse, because it's kind of a logical conclusion. But then the U.S. government's like condemning anybody who supports QAnon. You're now like considered more dangerous as a far right neo-Nazi. Same thing as being in the KKK, man. Now you think that there's like pedos that are kidnapping kids, then and that they might work for the government, that they might have some politicians blackmailed. Now you're as dangerous as a mass murdering genocidal Nazi. Okay. Kind of makes me question whether or not you've been blackmailed, but I'm just contemplating. I don't endorse anything without proof. But these are the sad realities that there's about 3,500 kids getting sex trafficked each year, new ones. It's just a nonstop predators preying on little kids, and I don't know. I just see the QAnon people as just trying to help, and then maybe some of them start calling people pedos on the internet, and then the people that they called pedos are saying, "Oh, these people, these conspiracy theorists, are coming after me. They're calling me a pedo, so now we have to condemn them because these people calling me a pedo is going to make it so I don't get elected." That's what I have a problem. I got a real big problem with that. Because Facebook banning these people, it's like, okay, I can understand if somebody's harassing somebody on the internet, calling them a pedophile. That, I think it crosses the line into slander and libel. But to ban people because they think that there's child sex trafficking networks related with Jeffrey Epstein and some cartels that have paid off politicians, working with China, blackmailing people, doing a corruption network, so that the Chinese can be the world's #1 superpower, and then the other people can get paid buku bucks, kowtowing to the new master, the Chinese Nazi Party, the Xi Jinping, Zinni the Pooh. I just don't understand why what it is that makes you a bad person if you think that that there's QAnon could be true, because you got to look at it from the reality of if it's true. What would they also have if there's Chinese Nazi military and Russian ex-KGB pulling some Illuminati shit? You'd see a disinformation campaign around it, right? Because once you start to throw in they're making gravy out of the brains of the 3-year-old kids that they're doing in the human sacrifice, because they like sex trafficking the kids and then they had to get rid of them, so they do human sacrifice. Now you start throwing in some other crazy shit, and then you pump these theories up by using bots on the internet that share the stories to people that you want to in networks of people that you want to share the stories in, to discredit them, to make them look like lunatics, when in reality you've got this blackmail ring associated with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell and her father, and the Bohemian Grove that's pawned off U.S. politicians with the help of the Chinese Nazi Party to try to help the Chinese Nazi Party be the world's #1 superpower, so that they can be the sycophants that came up off of the new Chinese Nazi Party dictator, who is the new king in town, Winnie the Pooh, a.k.a. Xi Jinping, the one that looks like Winnie the Pooh. And you just got to wonder, why are these people going after the QAnon people? Like, why is the U.S. Senate and all big tech coming down on QAnon people? They're like, oh, well, some dude took a gun into a pizza shop and was like, so they said it was like a child sex ring and that they were abusing kids in the basement, but then there wasn't a basement. All right. So nobody got killed, right? It's just some dude who was like a good Samaritan, had a gun. All right. So how does this make these people dangerous again? Oh, they threatened the politicians on the internet. I think that is the story. That right there is the story. Politicians can't have you saying stuff like that because they won't get elected, because you're going to harm their reputation. Okay. Maybe that should be the behavior that Facebook is banning. Maybe that's the stuff that they should target, which is the tort offenses that somebody could sue you for, because that would be in violation of the Communications Decency Act. It wouldn't. It would violate the Communications Decency Act, because they're supposed to be monitoring the websites to remove anything like that. But when they're and so that's the Good Samaritan law, where they're allowed to censor our speech because it's a tort offense. It's not supposed to be up there. All right, that's legit. It's not legit to target QAnon because of their political beliefs, because that would not be in Section 230. If you look at Section 230, it's got some stuff in it. This isn't the thing, huh? Let's read it. It says, the Congress finds the following: rapidly developing array of internet and interactive computer service available to individual Americans represents an extraordinary advance in the ability of education and informal resources to our citizens. Okay. So, is QAnon educational? The informational resource? Yeah, might be bad information. Might be something you want to educate yourself to not be a crackpot like some of these loonies. But whether or not it's true or false, you could still say it's at least educational in some regards, because you want to learn about conspiracy theories, right? As they need to be educated about it. If you banned all these people up on social media and you prevented them from existing, well, then would not be able to learn it from it because it would be pushed onto the dark web, the intellectual dark web. So number 2, these services offer users a great degree of control over the information they receive, as well as the potential for even greater control over future technology develops. So the user needs to be in control of what they see. So what are they getting at? What's the background story? Somebody sued Prodigy. They had a billboard. Somebody posted up some stuff I think was defamation of character. So they sued Prodigy. And then the federal government said, you know what? We're going to shut down the internet if we don't have this special protections from tort lawsuits, because they need to filter out some stuff. If this is a tort action, person did defamation of character, it's supposed to be the person who spoke the words that is supposed to get the punishment, get sued. You don't sue Prodigy, the billboard, because somebody else posted something up there, because then none of us can use it, right? Makes sense. So 3, the internet and other interactive computer services offer a forum for true diversity of political discourse, unique opportunities for cultural development, a myriad avenues of intellectual activity. All right. How does QAnon fit into that? Well, it would be a political ideology, group of people that believes that there's the people in politics that are doing this, and they have a political agenda to root out the pedophiles. All right. Unique opportunities for cultural development. Okay, it's a very, very unique culture. Definitely. QAnon is a very unique culture. It's kind of kooky, kind of conspiratorial. A lot of patriots, a lot of really good people, a lot of kooky old white women that are getting trending on social media because of their crackpot conspiracy theories. And to that, I say cheers. It's entertaining. More power to you. This is why 5 is increasing Americans are relying on interactive media for a variety of political, educational, cultural, and entertainment services. So 1, it's entertainment. 2, it's cultural. 3, it's educational. 4, it's political. So QAnon meets all of those metrics. So the kind of conversations that they're trying to preserve on the internet would be the QAnon, because some of their people engage in tort offenses when they go and they slander politicians as pedophiles, right? Okay, all right. So this means that what? The platform's not supposed to be liable. It's supposed to be so they can have filters. So the policy, they need to filter out stuff like porn. Kids can't be watching porn. We don't want any animal abuse images, nothing indecent. But B, it's the policy of the United States, 1, to promote the continued development of the internet and interactive computer services and other interactive media such as QAnon media, to preserve the vibrant and competitive free marketplace that presently exists for the internet, other interactive computer services unfettered by federal or state regulation. Okay, well, there was a federal condemnation of QAnon, so that the United States has come down against this political ideology that they say is dangerous far-right conspiracy theory that's akin to anti-Semitism somehow. It's like far-right. I don't know what QAnon has anything to do with anything far-right, like dictators, racism, xenophobia. I don't know how it has anything to do with Jews or anti-Semitism. This is ridiculous. Okay, and then, so is there a competitive free market that presently exists on the internet for social media for these diverse opinions and politics? No. Facebook has a monopoly. Twitter makes it a duopoly. They have almost all the views, and then you add Parler onto it. It's like, how do I manage all these platforms? Like, I can't go to all these websites. Can't do more than one social network. So like, so using the scope, the reach is limited. Okay, So obviously, we have a problem with, in order to have this reach, to reach everybody, we have to have some sort of monopoly that has all of the people on the social network so that we can have access to them. And then what happens if you're denied access to these people because they said you're QAnon, so we got to ban your account? Anti-competitive practice. The other people are they're a social network. They have a political platform. They have a network of people, and then their people have been banned because of their political ideology. Not because of the actions that they've done, but because you've blamed them for the actions that somebody else did that didn't even result in any death. Maybe if it resulted in deaths, maybe I would say, okay, all right, this QAnon thing is like causing people to kill each other. But the reality is that most of the violence comes from like poor people in the city. A lot of them are gangbangers. They're like in and out of prison, like some white supremacist gang. No real difference in between the white supremacist gang and the Latin Kings. They're both got a lot of really nasty murderers and drug dealers, gangbangers. They're both all bad. I don't see anything worse about the white supremacist gangs than the Latin Kings or any of the other cartels. They're all pretty bloodthirsty, and just one might have more money than the other, causing more violence around controlling the money flow. But like, how does any of this touch in scale? How does the scale of the crime, how does that compare to QAnon? Like, you got like a bunch of people who don't like pedos, who think that there's like pedo politicians, they want to get them out of office. So they're not criminals. They're trying to help kids out. And then you've got on the other side a bunch of gangbanging murderers who are funneling a mass amount of drugs, and then they're paying off politicians. And then possibly these politicians are getting blackmailed by some of these human traffickers. They're also in the drug trafficking because they're making so much money that they're paying off governors. They're paying off people in the ports. And of course you would expect us to have some drug traffickers that are paying off everybody in the ports and start paying off governors and police officers. And then you would expect the Chinese Nazi Party to come in there and start peddling their fentanyl there so that they could kill the U.S. citizens with drug overdoses, using their network of illegal immigrants to funnel chemical weapons to us in the form of fentanyl. You would expect that because it's the real world. It's us versus socialism, man. It's the capitalists versus the socialists. So you're expecting people that are involved in human trafficking networks to then come into the picture and start paying people off. There's nothing suspicious about that. But the politicians don't want you focusing on that. And it's because there's a high probability chance that it's true. They're just doing it to maintain power. There's no way that you can argue they're not doing it to maintain power. Why are they doing it? Because somebody on the internet said they're a pedo because they were opposing QAnon. All right? They could not even be involved in a human or drug smuggling operation, and they're just doing it to maintain power, right? So then you throw in, okay, well, there's cartels. They pay off politicians. They pay off people in ports. Who else pays off people in ports? Like dry docks, shipping yards. Chinese Nazi Party. Chinese Nazi Party has human smuggling and drug smuggling with fentanyl networks, as well as other exotic imports for Chinese Nazi Party members who want exotic things that are illegal in the U.S. They have shipping networks like that in their Chinese controlled shipping yards. They ship in occasionally illegal stuff like fentanyl. They do it. It happens. It does. And they pay people off at the ports. And so you're like, okay. All of a sudden you're like, wow, QAnon does not sound so quack after all. In fact, actually, not even the satanic baby who was the satanic ritual child sacrifice even sounds crazy, because you can track it down to a source of people that we actually have information that they are doing ritual human sacrifice. So I don't know. I'm just stating that. I don't believe anything without evidence. But don't forget to smash that like button if you like this content. Share this video on social media if you got some enlightenment out of that and you would like to share it with some other people, or if you thought I was batshit crazy because I was saying some stuff that I don't even know if I believe because I'm agnostic to everything. Scientist. But hey, you know what? Honestly, I've done a bit of research on QAnon. I've never gone to the sources of the QAnon conspiracy. I just researching the articles, researching the sex trafficking network, the statistics of how the sex trafficking networks work. I'm pretty convinced that innately there's going to be some underage hookers involved in those. And then anytime you've got a large number of politicians that are putting off having families till their 30s so they could come up in the political world, and then they're using hooker networks, I mean, you're going to start having underage hookers in there at some point in time. Anyways, yeah, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notification when I go live, and keep watching because it's a live stream, and I think I got enough juice for maybe one more, but I got